I'm Alex Larson, dietitian, Ironman finisher, and host of Endurance Eats, the podcast where we break down the science of endurance nutrition and turn it into clear, practical nutrition advice to revolutionize how you think about fueling your body. So grab a seat, or keep moving if you're out training, and let's get started. Welcome back to the Endurance Eats podcast. I cannot stop smiling today because I have my team members, Hannah Cooley and Mary Wirtz, joining me today. This is our official Alex Larson Nutrition team debut on the podcast. Today, we are answering some frequently asked endurance nutrition questions. Hopefully you love this style of podcast because, as you will notice, we have a lot of fun doing this. We would love to do this more. So please leave a review. I promise when I say this that I will read every word of every review. Let me know what you think. I'll be sure to schedule more of these if you guys like them. And if you want to submit your own question to be answered, head to alexlarsonnutrition.com. You can submit your question through the contact page, and I'll include a link in the show notes. So let's get started. Hey ladies, we haven't been all together in so long. It's so good to see your faces. I'm just looking forward to this conversation with you because we always have a good time. We nerd out on all of the different topics. But in case those that are listening haven't met you, I wanted to do a quick intro of my dream team. All three of us we're from Minnesota. Both Hannah and Mary started working with me in 2022, coaching athletes in my one-on-one nutrition coaching program. And I have lost count how many times over the past 2 years that we have said to each other that this is the best job ever. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like I don't know what it is about what we do that's just, it's so fun, right?
It is. And I think, Alex, with you mentioning that, it keeps getting better, right? And I feel like I'm now messaging you weekly. This is the best job ever. It used to be like every other week or even once a month. But I'm like, no, weekly. I need to remind you, this continues to be the best job ever.
I know. Well, and you're always like, please do not fire me. I would be distraught. And I'm like, please don't leave me. Okay. All right. So let's start with Hannah. I just want you to share a little bit about yourself.
My name is Hannah. I've been, Alex, oh my gosh, has it been like 2.5 years with you now?
Yeah, right? You started early
like spring
2020.
2022.
Yeah, you guys basically started like 3 months apart. So
okay.
It's been a little over 2 years.
Yeah, which is crazy how quickly it's gone. So since then, since I started, I added a dog to our family and then just had my first child in April of this past year, a little girl named Cooper. She's been wonderful and awesome. And just to navigate coming back to working, and being a mom now has been a wonderful journey that I feel very thankful. Again, back to this being the best job ever. It's been so rewarding to be back. Outside of that, I was a runner all throughout high school and then in college, and then found my love for triathlon after that. My last triathlon was in 2019 before COVID, but still have a passion for endurance sports. Watch all the things, including the Kona World Championships this coming weekend. But I absolutely love working with all athletes and have a special love for working with triathletes.
Well, and I know you're not going to toot your own horn here, but like you were an excellent triathlete. I mean, here in Minnesota, I think you still have some course records, right? Possibly.
Yes, so humble. Yeah, I started in 2016. My husband, not my now husband, boyfriend at the time, kind of forced me in the sport. Like I came home one day and there was a triathlon bike in our living room, and he was like, "You're going to do this." And so that first summer we did like 12 triathlons. Like it was like every weekend. Still remember that first ride. I'm sure you guys can kind of remember when you clip in and you're kind of like riding down the road and you're like, I'm going to die, but I don't know how to stop. So I just it was kind of like a hard launch into the sport. And then, I did 4 full years, 4 full summers of it. Just pretty hardcore. And then it culminated with I competed at the Ironman World Championships in 2019, which I'm
Yeah.
still thankful for, because Kona has not been like the same since. And I don't know if it ever will. So I was lucky to kind of get clinch the last year of that being how it's supposed to be, I think.
Yeah.
So.
I can remember, I don't know which year it was, but the Minnesota Tri News did a whole feature in their email newsletter about you, just being like an absolute domination in the women's field across Minnesota.
Well, I do have to say a caveat in that the editor and writer of that newsletter is like a personal fan of me, just like as a person. So I felt like, I mean, it seems like there was this big, but I think he just kind of liked me as a person. So it's more of just kind of I think he would just talk about me a lot because he liked me as a friend. But yes, I was very lucky to be, celebrated in that way.
Yeah. And when you started with me too, after a couple months in, you were like, I really feel like I just have an edge up with my triathlon clients because I've been in the sport. And I totally agree with that. Having done an Ironman, having done 70.3s, having done even shorter distances and done the training, it really did help me work with that type of athlete because I just knew what questions to ask and I could relate to them more.
Right.
That was something that you right away kind of picked up on. And I was like, yeah, totally agree.
I remember you telling me it very early on. We were like, the amount of people that I get that do not care my credentials, but as soon as they hear that I've done an Ironman, they're like, you're the one.
Well, because, I hear that from a lot of athletes. They're like, I'm so glad I found a dietitian that has done endurance sports because they've potentially worked with another dietitian that just didn't get their lifestyle when, they have these big epic events. They're like, no, I think you're running too much. I think that's a problem. I'm like, no, you tell me how far you want to go and we'll help you fuel for that. So you're just going to have to find your people. And, in terms of dietitians, we are your people. If you want to do long distance events, we're it. That's what we love to talk about. That's what we love to help fuel athletes for. So, okay, Mary, you're up.
Yes. So I'm Mary, and I am not a triathlete at all. I've done 2 ever, and I jokingly say that, after my second, I'm retiring from triathlons.
It's a challenging sport. It's it's hard.
Yes, and with it, you truly have to enjoy it. And with swimming, I cannot get past the swimming part.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yes. So I work with our runners and our cyclists, and I have the best job ever, and I continue to have the best job ever. But prior to working with you, Alex, I worked in clinical nutrition for about 8 years, and I really enjoyed it, and I learned so many valuable things working in clinical nutrition because certainly we have, our athletes with certain medical conditions, not that we're providing medical nutrition therapy per se, but it's good to have that general awareness and understanding that, some of the lifestyle situations our athletes are dealing with. But I'm also an athlete. I've been a runner for a very long time, over half of my life. I've been a competitive runner and kind of transitioning a little bit out of competitive running. I say that jokingly because I just signed up for Boston Marathon a couple weeks ago.
I know, I told you, I messaged you, I said, you have a problem. As you were like, I think I'm going to have to be done running because my knee. And I'm like, okay. And then I see you signed up for Boston.
I just love it. I can't help it. But I competed in high school and I was fortunate enough to continue in college and post-collegiately, and even while pregnant. I have 2 daughters, and I was able to run throughout pregnancy and even postpartum. So,
and Boston while you were pregnant, is that correct?
I actually ran Fargo Marathon while I was pregnant.
Okay, but
you qualified for Boston while pregnant, and you peed 4 times out on the race course. What the heck? That's how fast of a runner Mary is.
It was
Seriously.
honestly like 10 but it was so cold. It was like one of those days where it was cold and rainy and there were 30-mile-an-hour winds like that you
Oh,
could just not hide
I'd
from.
take the cold over the heat any day, though. But that's
Yeah.
saying, I mean,
Yeah.
that I've just
Yeah.
grown accustomed to the cold living in northern Minnesota. Like, you just have to.
Mhm.
Where, Mary, you live in Oklahoma right now, and you've been sharing these stories of living down there. And I'm like, every time you talk about living down there, I just have less and less desire to ever
I know. I live in hell.
reside there.
That's what I just tell people now. No. I say that lovingly for those listeners that live in the South.
Yeah, it's just not for us. But someday you'll come back to Minnesota and be near us.
Someday. We're counting down
We're
when that happens.
we're literally hoping that soon.
We're literally, me and Alex both, like on a weekly basis, is like we have a spare bedroom. Like,
Yeah, I will move one of my kids. I'll put bunk beds in one bedroom, and I'll move out of my office. You can totally take this room.
I mean, I will totally share a room with them.
Yeah.
we can make that happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, today we are going to answer some questions that I have gotten over the years from through Instagram, through email. One of my favorite things to do is just be put in the hot seat and do an Ask Me Anything on Instagram. And so I like to pull some questions from there and then discuss them a little bit more further in depth on here, because there's only so much that I can say in an Instagram story or in a caption. And so I'm going to start it with a really fun one. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, and this is how we're kicking off this podcast episode. So it was someone that wrote, "Hey, Alex, would you recommend a Pop-Tart before a long trail run?" So what do you ladies think? Yay or nay to the Pop-Tart?
Okay, Hannah, I'm taking this one over because I feel like I could talk for a 50-minute entire podcast on why I love Pop-Tarts. I have an athlete that graduated who did amazing. So this athlete, like he had body composition goals, which we smashed. We had his pre, during, post workout nutrition so dialed in. And we jokingly said, I told him, I said, I expect a Pop-Tart sponsorship out of you by the time you're done with this program. This is how much we love Pop-Tarts. And I feel like in a world right now that's so divided, like politically, there's many reasons why people don't get along. But I feel like Pop-Tarts are one thing that we can mostly agree on, is that they're amazing. And they are a fabulous pre-workout fuel source because it's easily digestible carbohydrates that are going to provide that energy. And I say, if it's going to be a longer trail run, ideally you should be eating that entire pack of Pop-Tarts.
For sure.
Ideally, brown sugar and cinnamon or frosted strawberry are my top two favorite flavors.
I just love that side note that you know Pop-Tarts well enough to be like, this is the flavor. Yeah, I just love that about you.
Well, there's so many flavors now. Like you really can appease anyone's palate with them. But I'm like a classic, brown sugar, cinnamon is always my favorite. It just feels nostalgic to me.
Are you a toasted or no toasted?
No toasted. I like it cold. Okay. I don't know. But yeah, I think they're super convenient. They're very portable.
They're inexpensive.
They're fairly inexpensive. And my problem though is I have to hide them from my kids if I want to use them. My office always stays locked because I have mountains of sports fuel in here. And my oldest has been known to sneak in here if I accidentally leave it unlocked, and then I'll find wrappers of honey stinger waffles in his closet. Yeah. And so I might have to hide the Pop-Tarts in here. But yeah, they're great. I think there's this fear of processed foods and I can't eat a Pop-Tart, that's so processed, it's not good for me. But you have to think of processed foods as having a time and a place. It's not like we're sitting here saying you should have a Pop-Tart all day long every day. It's the only thing you should eat. That's not what we're saying. But we're saying like nutritionally, it's going to be a very easy to digest carb. It's going to give you, I mean, I think what's a whole pouch has like what, is it 70 grams of
70 grams of carbs.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot. That's a good dose of carbs, like to really help
Yeah.
kick off a workout feeling well fueled. So if
I
you're
also-
just not feeling like having a big hearty meal, like have some Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, I also love that there is just like a little bit of protein and a little bit of fat, especially when we're talking about this trail runner specifically, when typically you are going to be going a little bit out of a slower pace than you would be on the pavement. So I love that you are getting a little bit of fat and protein for that specific population, because it's likely that you're going to want a little bit extra just to support your appetite more than if you were just going like 70 carbs of straight juice or something.
Yeah, I've talked about this before with you ladies. Like my blood sugar just gets really sensitive if I have an empty stomach in the morning and I just have straight like sugar as my pre-workout fuel. I get a little, not even a little, like I feel very ill, and it's just my blood sugar shooting up super fast. And so I have to have just a little bit of protein with it. Not a lot, like I'd say like a half a cup of yogurt or like half a cheese stick or something, just to like stabilize that blood sugar just a little bit, so I don't feel ill. So that's what's kind of nice about Pop-Tarts too.
I was just going to say one more thing about Pop-Tarts. And again, I could just continue to talk about the reasons why I love Pop-Tarts, but they're fun. They're just fun, right? And I feel like, especially for trail runners and some of these ultra endurance athletes, where they're spending hours upon hours on the trails, you really need to make fueling fun, or it's going to be a very long trek ahead. One of the athletes that started with me recently, he was just fueling with precision fuel. That is it, ever. And I'm like, why do you do that? He's like, because it works for me. And I'm like, we need to find other fuel sources that work for you. Case in point, the whole spring energy debacle. Like if you're relying on just one sports nutrition product, there's a very good chance that something may be off at some point, and lead to fueling mistakes. But it's good to have variety. It's good to have fun, and it's good to integrate some of those fun food sources, whether it's Pop-Tarts, Fig bars, Rice Krispie bars, gummy snacks, fruit chews, fruit leather. It doesn't have to be Pop-Tarts, but I mean, again, who doesn't love them?
So good. I think it's important to choose those fun foods as well. Like if you're just feeling like you're eating like a robot, it's not something that's really sustainable long term. So making sure you're including those fun things. Like I had an athlete who really loves Skittles, and so she would have a little fun size Skittles before like her kettlebell class on Saturday mornings, and she's like, oh my god, like they make me feel so strong in that strength class. And I'm like, yay, like let's celebrate like having those foods that you just like have that kind of little emotional connection to. I love it. So Mary, you had kicked off this question in our group chat a while ago. You asked like, what is an embarrassingly processed food that you absolutely love? I want to like actually discuss this on this podcast, because we just typed it in a like group chat, but let's go around and talk about what our favorite embarrassing and processed food is.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, you got to admit it. Because those listening, like, yes, we are dietitians, but we are human first. And we all have, like, something that we just love that.
Okay, well, there's a laundry list of them. However, I'm going to pick my top two most recent that come to mind. And the first of which is like the canned biscuit dough. I freaking love
cooked,
right?
Yeah,
I don't.
Not wrong.
Not that much of a freak, right?
We did have to clarify that though, like in the group chat, we're like, you're talking like baked, right?
I just love it in any form. Plain, you can make monkey bread out of it, little pizza bubble bread, bringing me back to 7th grade. Love the can biscuit though. The other one is Kraft singles cheese. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
melted on like a grilled cheese.
So when you come back up to Minnesota, there's a creamery called Bongards, and they make a kind of similar processed like sliced cheese, but I feel like it's even better than the Kraft singles.
We can do a taste test.
We should do a taste test. I think you'll actually, I buy it all the time, like at the grocery store. And like this big, like massive block of sliced cheese. Like it's rather quite impressively large, but I do really like that cheese. It makes amazing grilled cheese sandwiches. I'm not gonna lie.
That sounds so delightful right now.
Yeah, like I don't mind Kraft slices, but this it's like this white processed sliced cheese that I get from this Bongards. It's really, really good. Hannah, how about you?
So I would say, like, Mary's gonna love me for this, but really, I really love cereal. So leaning into my carb load for Kona, I did a lot of Fruity Pebbles because I am gluten free. So I did a lot of Fruity Pebbles. Really any like gluten free cereal, like even like Frosted Cheerios. That's a good one. And then kind of random, I love Swiss Miss hot chocolate. I feel like that's superior to any hot chocolate. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to just use like the powdered dried mix and sprinkle it on ice cream.
I'm pretty sure as a kid, I just would like eat it by the spoonful. Like, so
right?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Those are mine.
Yeah. I do have a recipe on the blog of like a protein hot chocolate where I use a scoop of that Thorn chocolate whey protein isolate, and then I'll add a couple tablespoons of the Swiss Miss with like some Fairlife milk, and that's excellent. And I give that to my kids because it's a nice way for me to like sneak in some extra protein for them if they're like in like a picky stage of life.
I love that.
Nice, right?
Yes, that's like a brilliant mom hack.
Yeah. Okay, so my I love all of the cheap and I know I love all of the cheap and nasty candy, like truly, like all of it.
Cheap and nasty.
Yeah, like I'll eat any of it as long as it doesn't have like nuts in it. I don't like that. But for me, it's always like summers at the cabin, or like I think people refer to it as like going to the cottage. Like here in Minnesota, we like you go up north to the cabin, and when I'm there, I don't know why, but Shasta cream soda pop, like it's the only time that I ever have pop really. There's something about that there that just feels super right in life. And then Twizzlers pull and peel cherry licorice. Like I'm like, why do I even like this? Like the texture is like so weird. It's like kind of gummy, but then like you can like pull the pieces off and like braid it or like make different things out of it while you're like sitting there eating it, or I'll just like scarf it down super fast before my kids see. Yeah, like that. Those are like my two really good things. Or this is strictly a Minnesota thing. So if you live here, you know what I'm talking about. But Top the Tater is like a chip dip. It's like a chive and onion chip dip here. It's exclusive really to Minnesota, and people who move away like miss it so much. It is amazing with like Ruffles, like ridged potato chips. So good. So good.
I'm getting thinking
I know. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our next question. At what point do you need to start bringing water and gels on your runs or any workout for that? And I'll have you start this one.
So my rule of thumb, it's never necessarily a bad idea to practice, right? Like fueling or hydrating on any type of workout. However, I usually counsel my clients to say that anything 60 minutes and above is a good time to start thinking about that. Or on the flip side, let's say you're in like a heavy training block and you've got a double workout, even if the workout is super easy, I say 60 minutes is kind of my like tipping point, in the sense that we need to start thinking about bringing hydration and fuel. So it kind of depends on the goals of the athlete as well. If they are more of like a body composition versus like truly performance, we can kind of like, fudge those lines a little bit. But that's kind of my hard line, is that 60-minute time period.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And there's a couple caveats too. Like how well did they feel beforehand? Like if they are, had the morning workout and they haven't eaten since like 6 o'clock the night before,
Right.
and their workout, they need to, have some sort of like strong interval effort in there. I'm like, hey, let's maybe have just a little bit of fuel during it, just to kind of have a little insurance, make sure that we're able to get through that workout really nice. I've talked about this too before on other podcasts, where if I get up in the morning and if I don't have anything before that, like even if it's an easy half an hour run, I feel like crap afterwards, because I hadn't eaten since 5:30, 6 o'clock the night before, because I often forget to have a bedtime snack. So I think you have to also think about, it's not just about the, timing or like effort level of the workout, but it's like, what have you done beforehand? Are you going into it already under fueled? Well, then let's kind of try and catch up, so that you're not in this huge deficit the rest of the day, and your body's like struggling with sugar cravings or like an epic appetite, or you're just feeling super tired because your body's like really short on energy. So I like to think about it as that way too. And then the water piece to it, if it's a really hot workout, bring some fluids with. Keep yourself hydrated, because you're going to be sweating a lot. If you live down in Texas or Oklahoma, where Mary's at, and it's, October and 85 degrees out, and you're going out in the middle of the day, bring some fluids with, bring some water with, keep yourself hydrated, or plan to have a route where you can grab something.
I agree with everything you ladies said. And I think the other asterisk is, it's important to know your sweat rate in different types of conditions. I have an athlete recently, we calculated her sweat rate, and she'll know who she is when she hears this podcast. I tell her, I'm like, this is the PR you don't want. Her sweat rate was 2.2 liters an hour, right? And so,
in what conditions? How warm was it?
It was warm, but she lives in Minnesota. It's not like she lives on the sun or in Oklahoma, right? Where it's even hotter and more humid. And, she was dealing with cramping and even muscle twitching and just, reduced cognitive ability later in the day. And I'm like, there's a really good chance you're underhydrating. We did the sweat rate multiple times, and she absolutely was underhydrating. And for her, I said, not fueling is not an option. Not hydrating is not an option, even during these 30-minute workouts, just because her fluid needs were so high.
Yeah, that definitely beats out the triathlete I had earlier this year, who was on a cool day was 1.5 liters, but on the hotter days he was more like 2 liters. And it was a challenge because I think he did like the extreme triathlon up in Utah at elevation, and it was a full-time job for him during that race to stay hydrated.
Mm-hmm. Right. Wow. Yeah. And then just to be able to carry all that, that amount with you too is also a challenge.
It's one of those things where knowledge is power. And so once you kind of learn that, you have to kind of be creative with carrying water, or having drop bottles, or having your training route be just a loop, so that you can always come back to your vehicle or your house and refill. There's, with cyclists, you can get packs that can have 2 liters on your back. You can have bottles on you. With my triathletes, I'm always like, okay, if you're doing a 70.3 or beyond, I need you to have at least 3 bottle cages on your bike. Because it can be really challenging at bottle exchanges on the bike to refill or resupply. Because I feel like, I don't know, wouldn't you agree, Hannah, that if there's going to be a crash, it's going to be at an aid station or a bottle exchange?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like that's like the highest chance of having those crashes, because people are stopping without thinking of the people behind them. That's where I feel like you kind of have to be strategic in staying up on those fluids because, man, that dehydration can really take you out pretty quick.
Yeah, and it was.
Yeah.
The good news is, to your point, Alex, knowledge is power. And so we were able to obviously identify that and feeling like Wonder Woman right now that we're fueling appropriately.
Yeah, like the difference that I'm sure she felt when she started hydrating better was just, I'm sure, epic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's so fun on our end because we're like, yes, that's what we want. We just want people to feel really great.
Gosh, like, look at all of these opportunities going forward. And this is why we have the best job ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's feeling absolutely amazing and feeling like the righteous goddess that she is now.
Oh my gosh. We love our athletes so much. Guys, they're so sweet. All right, so the next question is, first thing I want to do after a long run is shower. What would you say are the top 3 things to do after you get done? Now, I'll start this one off because I will say whenever I get done with a long run, there's no better feeling than having a post-run shower, shit, and refuel. Like, I just feel like that is like, I can conquer the rest of the day once those 3 things are taken care of. So like, and with my kids, like they're always like, Mom, and they're like swarming me. I'm like, I got it. And my husband's like, get to the bathroom, get showered, because I usually smell really bad. And so I need to think of a way to like, this is me talking to my future self here. When I get done with long workouts, is having almost part of like my pre-workout fuel and fluids already in the bathroom to like kickstart that process. Because sometimes by the time I get out of the shower and like take care of my kids, like an hour has gone by and that's like too long. So thinking about your routine when you get back is maybe already having things ready to go. So you can just grab, take them with to the bathroom and get that rehydration, refueling process started as you get ready for, the rest of the day.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, we have a lot of athletes, whether they may not be training training from home where they have easy access to be able to put together a good post-workout meal. So thinking to your point about convenience items where you're getting in some protein and easily digestible carbs post-workout, where you're getting in some liquids. I will always love a peanut butter and jelly sandwich post-workout.
Yeah.
Core Power and cereal, if that's available. Can mix
it's my top recommendation.
I will say, if you, especially in the summer months when you want to bring like a Core Power or like one of those Fairlife protein drinks, and your car gets really hot, I actually will take my husband's big Yeti tumblers and I will put like a couple ice cubes in the bottom, and I'll take a cold Fairlife or cold Core Power and stick it in there with the cover on, and that keeps it cold in a hot vehicle. So when you get back to your vehicle, it's more palatable to drink. Doesn't it?
What a fabulous idea.
Right?
I love that.
And I feel like with the Core Power too, for the athletes that struggle with reduced appetite, with knowing that exercise can decrease appetite, it's a natural appetite suppressant. Refueling within an hour can be very hard. So it's good to have those strategies where you can easily take in calories within an hour of working out.
Yeah, something. Please take something.
The hill that I would die on is that Core Power and peanut butter Chex is like one of the best post-workout little snacks of all time. You don't even have to mix them. You can eat like a savage, like just out of the box if needed. Just keep it right in your car.
Yeah, I oh my God, Mary, you're so funny.
I'm fired from this podcast.
No, you're not fired from this podcast.
No, actually, you've been promoted in my mind. I love that.
Yeah. If whether or not you're getting home and you have to go straight to the shower, please prioritize that fueling, because I've had this happen to me where I just didn't get a chance to, and next thing you know, 2 hours has gone by, and then all of a sudden I just feel awful and like, I feel almost sick because I'm just like my energy just plummets. And so you don't want to kind of end up in that kind of murder hungry phase where you didn't refuel right away. So if you're due to have a meal, have your meal. If not, have some sort of snack, and then have a meal within a couple hours is usually a good general rule that I like to recommend.
Yeah, you can't outsmart your body. It will come back to bite you if you don't hit that first hour.
Yes. Don't try and save those calories for later because it won't work. It's not gonna go well. Okay, so how should last question here? How should someone eat on their rest days or rest weeks?
Ooh, very good question. And I feel like it's one of those answers where we could like go down this really long rabbit hole of trying to overcomplicate it. But by and large, I do feel like the parameters of your nutrition should be staying the same, right? Focusing on the basics, focusing on adequate hydration throughout the day. It's easy to neglect if you're not training at full intensity any longer, but you want to stay well hydrated at baseline.
Yeah.
Optimizing lean protein with most every meal and snack, dropping your protein pre-workout because we don't need to overdo the protein heading into even an easy workout. Stocking up on those micronutrient rich fruits and veggies. The more the better. I always tell my athletes, you can get annoyed with me. Sometimes I annoy myself, but we need more fruits and vegetables because realistically, even our athletes aren't getting in 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. So I often sound like a broken record with trying to really sneak more of those in. And a lot of those vitamins and minerals are really going to help with the inflammation, the chronic inflammation from exercise. So trying to emphasize those in easy ways that are realistic for your lifestyle.
I feel like with rest days or rest weeks, people associate that they need to like earn their calories. And so they're like, oh, well, I didn't work out today, so I don't need to eat as much. And I'm like, I disagree, because for a lot of people, especially our high volume training athletes, exercise will suppress their appetite. And so when they're going day after day after day, training really heavily, they're often coming in a little short on their needs. And so when you get to a rest day and all of a sudden they're ravenous and they're like, oh my God, I'm wanting to eat everything in my kitchen and I didn't exercise and I'm going to gain all this weight. And I'm like, I hear the fear. I like want to make sure I validate people's feelings with that. But you have to understand why they're so ravenous. Is because their body is finally capable of catching up on some of that nutrition. So you have to go in with a game plan on rest day of like, hey, I am going to like really hit my protein targets, really support like regulating that appetite, providing that satiety that protein does. I'm going to have regular meals and snacks on a regular basis. I'm not going to think about like that I didn't earn my calories. No, I'm going to really fully support helping my body truly recover from my training that I've been doing so that I'm ready to start back up tomorrow. Because when athletes restrict on rest days, they might wake up the next day and they're like, ooh, I think I need another rest day. I'm not ready to get back into recovery. I'm still sore. I'm still super tired. And it's like, yeah, that's because your body didn't get everything it needed on that rest day. So let's lean into the nutrition so you're ready to go tomorrow instead of having to take multiple rest days.
That's such a good point. And the other thing I feel like is when they feel like they need to undercut themselves with nutrition and calories, it will often lend itself to wildly overeating in the back half of the day, more often than not. And for our athletes that do have body composition goals that we want to support, that's a problem, right? That's a challenge.
Yeah. Sometimes I tell people too, if they're kind of questioning their hunger, sometimes I tell them like, okay, like go through the checklist in your head of how your day has looked so far. Like, how was your sleep the night before? How has your hydration been? Have you been eating protein? Have you been getting your fiber in through fruits and vegetables? And if you can say all of those things have been happening in the day, and let's say you're more hungry than you think that you should be in the afternoon, then you do need to eat more because your body is clearly telling you that you need more food. But let's say you didn't sleep well and maybe you started your day like with a Pop-Tart, not followed by a workout, right? Like doesn't have much protein, then there's probably some reasons as to why you're feeling extra hungry. So like doing some assessment there, I think is a good
Yeah.
thing to
That's a
do.
good way to word it too. And I've done that with my athletes where I'm like, hey, if you're hungry, let's think about why you're hungry. Did you not have your usual lunch where you're a little skimpy on lunch?
Mhm.
And you mentioned sleep, and it just makes me think of like last week, my youngest was
You're
sleeping
like last night.
terrible. My youngest was sleeping so terrible where she would wake up, wide awake at like 3:30, 4 a.m. at consecutive days in a row. And I just was like so angry at the world because I was so tired. But then I noticed in those days, like I was like, why am I like craving Halloween candy so much? I haven't had this in like so, and it's just something about being sleep deprived that kind of messes with those hunger hormones. And so it took me a couple days to recognize it, but then I was able to be like, okay, I need to kind of get on top of this and take a nap and kind of get, and she's finally sleeping better now this week. But yeah, just asking yourself why instead of just like trying to like get into this fear-based restriction, I think is really
Mhm.
important.
Yeah, I think approaching it with curiosity for sure, not judgment, because like you're, again, we always say this, you're an athlete who is training, not an everyday person who is like working out, right? Like, or
Mm-hmm.
doing, it's exercising. Like you really are working out like to support your bigger goals. And so hunger is never a bad thing. It's telling you that you need to fuel for upcoming big workouts or races, but sometimes just getting curious as to why maybe that hunger, if you feel like it shouldn't be happening. I think sometimes like kind of backtracking in the day or even like leading up into like 24, 48 hours prior to, and figuring out why that hunger might be there.
Yeah, and even if you're not training for anything too, because I know that there's
Mm-hmm.
people listening that are like, I'm not training for a marathon right now. I'm just kind of
Mm-hmm.
in an off season. I think it's still important to think of yourself as an athlete. Like if you're training, 60 minutes plus a day, or you've got longer workouts, you're still trying to work on fitness. I think you should still call yourself an athlete
Mm-hmm.
in my mind.
For sure. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, ladies, thank you so much for being here today. This was so fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more of these because I just like seeing your faces. I like talking with you. I like nerding out on these topics and also hearing all of your different ideas of peanut butter Chex Mix and core power as opposed to work.
It's brilliant. I'm gonna go have
talking
that
more
right
about
now.
yeah, I'm talking more about Pop-Tarts. So yeah, those listening, please leave a review. Let us know what your favorite stuff are. We're always looking for ideas. But again, thanks, ladies. I truly feel like I hit the lottery with finding both Hanna and Mary. When you join our one-on-one nutrition coaching program, I assign you to work exclusively with one of us, but you're not just getting the brain power of one. You're getting all three of us because we are constantly sharing ideas and supporting one another in being the best coach for our clients. If you're interested in the one-on-one program, head to alexlarsonnutrition.com. The first step is to fill out an application for the program, and then I'll send you an invite to book a complimentary call for us to explore what it would look like for you to work with us. We have worked with over 400 athletes from all over the US and in over 17 countries to improve their nutrition and better support their very active and very busy lifestyle. You can head to the show notes for more details about that one-on-one program. I hope this episode offered you some new ideas and inspiration. When it comes to nutrition, it's all about finding what works best for you. I'll see you soon in the next episode.